Happy birthday to BremSter Puzzles. Hey everyone, today is the second anniversary of BremSter Puzzles, or second birthday of BremSter Puzzles, or however you want to call it. And actually, that's a complete lie. I'm recording this way in advance because that's the way I roll. There are several reasons for this, but yeah, it's just the way I run my channel. I record way in advance, and it has caused me problems in the past, but the problems it's solved are way beat the problems it's caused. So yeah, 2 years I've been doing this. And when the channel started, it all started because I made a puzzle that I couldn't solve. But at the time, well, I still do. A lot of the puzzles I make, I get some computer assistance with that. So you play around with it and you use a solving tool and you sort of figure that out. And sometimes you rely on that heavily, and sometimes you don't. And I had a computer turn around and say, this puzzle is unique. And I was rejecting the puzzle. I turned around and I've made this puzzle. I was chatting to Sotec, and I was basically saying, here's a puzzle. It looks pretty and everything, but it's terrible. It's unsolvable. And he came back to me after about an hour and went, you know what? And it was solvable, and apparently it had some really cool logic in it. And that puzzle was Psycho Alien. And he explained to me how the computer had figured out how to solve it. Or maybe not, the computer may have found a different way, but he explained to me a way of solving the puzzle. And I thought it was really, really cool. Now, my name is on that puzzle because I made it. A lot of setters use computers to help with their setting. Not everyone does, but a lot do. And a lot of setters who do that also make puzzles without using computer. I don't always use a computer when I set. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. It varies. And sometimes I will do a lot of setting in my head. This is a puzzle, the one on the screen right now, is a puzzle where I came up with the break-in in bed. The first puzzle I ever created, Psycho Killer, the Psycho Killer puzzle series, Psycho Killer 2. It's a long story. So I came up with the break-in for that in my head. And then I came and I put it into a grid, and I solved to that point, and then I went back to the setting tool, and I got what I got from that, and then I bounced backwards and forwards between a solving tool and a setting tool, and I just keep adding to it and solving as I go and figuring out what I want to do next. And sometimes you get to a point where it's like, okay, is this grid broken? And you put that into a solving tool, and you get the solving tool to say, what do you get from that? Sorry, I need to mute my Discord because it's pinging me and I don't want my Discord to ping me. So you bounce backwards and forwards. This is not what I expected this discussion to go to, but you end up bouncing forwards and you use the different tools. And sometimes you want the solving tool, the computer assisted tool, to tell you, is my puzzle broken? Like if I continue down this line and keep putting constraints in, is it going to say, well, is the puzzle already fundamentally broken? Is there like an XYZ or VXYWZ wing in the puzzle somewhere that means that this is actually an impossible grid? And a computer assisted tool will know that well before you will, and will stop you from going down a blind path. And some of us just use the tool that way. Very, very cool tool, can save you a lot of time. And there have been puzzles I've set where I haven't done that, and I've wondered why it's been broken, and then the computer has just said, no, this is just a broken grid. Anyway, so yeah, I wanted to release the solve video. This was 2 years ago of that, and just basically have a record somewhere of what it was. And some friends saw that I'd done this, and then they started sending me puzzles, and the channel grew from there into what it is today, 2 years later, which is the channel that hopefully you all know and love. And I don't do as many of my own puzzles on the channel anymore. Some other people do some of my puzzles. I've got the BremSter unpublished puzzle video, and as of today, I'm going to start releasing some of those videos as bonus videos, possibly before the normal videos. So you might see the first one in the either have just seen it today or tomorrow. As I said, I'm recording way in advance. I haven't figured out how to do that yet, but I will be releasing some. So you might see 2 videos a day some days, one coming out just before the other, and you'll see some of those BremSter unpublished puzzle videos just landing as bonus videos. It's just so that they're findable on the channel. But what I do, but when I first started, most of the videos that were released were me recording my own puzzles. So, coming back to what I wanted to do for the second anniversary, this is a hard puzzle that I made with Virtual. Now, I'm glad I've got a long rant at the start of this, because if people come to this and go, oh, this is a short video, because I know the solution path to this puzzle. I think I'm going to be able to run through the solution to this puzzle in maybe 20, 25 minutes, maybe even a little shorter. But solving this puzzle in that time, I think, is probably going to be unreasonable. I think this is quite a hard puzzle. And all of the testers have come back. I've had some very, very good solvers test this puzzle and come back saying it took me an hour. So, yeah, I think the video length on this one is going to be deceptive for how hard this puzzle is. So what I want to do now is continue back in what I did on those very first days and show you the solution to one of my own puzzles. Now, I did make this with Virtual. I came up with the break-in, and then together we worked on the middle and the end of this puzzle. So it is absolutely both of us. No doubt on that one. And collaborative setting can really draw out more from the puzzle, which is great. So without much more ado, I suppose, or ado, that's the wrong word, without further delay, let's have a look at White Lotus by BremSter and Virtual. And while I'm going through this, I'm going to go talk about not just the solution, but some of the ideas that I was trying to enforce in this puzzle and some of the ideas I've been exploring. So, how does White Lotus by BremSter and Virtual work? So, normal Sudoku rules apply. So, in every box, in every row, and in every column, the digits 1 to 9 must be placed without repetition. Digits in cages must sum to the number in the top left corner of the cage. Digits may not repeat within cages. Now, all of the cages in this puzzle are 15 cages, so they are all average. But all of these cages must sum to 15, and digits cannot repeat. So you could not make these up by going, let's do 7, 7, and 1. No, ignoring the thermo, this would not be possible because while that does sum to 15, you cannot repeat digits within a cage. Along thermos, digits must strictly increase from the bulb to the tip. So this, for example, could be 1, 3, 4, and 8. That is a perfectly acceptable thermo because this is higher than this is higher than this is higher than this. And as long as the thermo increases from the bulb going up, you have successfully completed the puzzle. They're the rules. I'm going to restart the puzzle to restart my timer. Now, I'm not going to be giving this one a shot. Well, I am, but I don't know the exact path, but I know all the primary tricks for this puzzle, and I'm going to be able to explain them. So, the thing that I've been exploring and the thing that I was able to come up with in my head is based around the absolute beauty and elegance of what is a 15 cage. A 3-cell 15 cage in a Killer Sudoku, I think, is one of the most elegant things I've explored. And there's something important to understand about a 3-cell 15 gauge. And the one of the concepts that I've come to play with a lot with them is the concept of Sudoku entropy. Now, there's no entropic lines in this puzzle, but the entropy of a 15 cage is important. Now, Sudoku entropy is the concept of low digits, middle digits, and high digits. So a low digit is a 1, 2, or 3, a middle digit is a 4, 5, 6, and a high digit is a 7, 8, or 9. Now, a 15 cage has two possible entropic options. The first one is it will be fully entropic. It will have a low digit, a middle digit, and a high digit, or it will be all middle entropy. It will be 4, 5, 6. So let's have a look at that. So let's use this 15 cage. I know it's got thermos. Ignore the thermos completely for now. So let's look at this 15 cage. If it's 4, 5, 6, all middle entropy, that sums to 15. So 4 plus 5 plus 6 is 15. We are golden. Now, if you were to decrease a digit on one side, you must increase on the other to get up. So if you move one of the digits to a low digit, you must increase one of the other digits to a high digit, and that gets you your low, your mid, and your high. So that's all good. But you must maintain one of the digits as a mid. And you can prove that by saying, okay, how does that work? If you have two low digits, even the two highest low digits, 2 and 3, you're only at 5, and your other digit would have to be a 10. That doesn't work. If you take 2 digits into high, you end up with 7, 8, the 2 lowest high digits, and you're already at 15, and the other digit would have to be 0. That doesn't work. So you cannot have 2 low digits or 2 high digits. So you can't decrease down to the point of having 2 low digits. You can only ever have 1 low digit in a cage. You can only ever have 1 high digit in a cage. And the only thing that you can have 2 of in a cage of entropic wise is middle. And if you have 2 mid digits, you immediately have all 3. So because of that, the 15 cage must be either fully entropic, 1 low digit, 1 middle digit, 1 high digit, or have all middle digits. An important concept to understand with a 15 cage. Now, if you use the Killer calculator built into Sudoku Pad, which you are perfectly welcome to do, then you will notice that that is also the case. There will always be the lowest digit will either be 1, 2, or 3. The middle digit will be 4, 5, 6. The high digit will be 7, 8, 9. Or you will have 4, 5, 6. They're your only options. Now, you want to look at this grid from the concept of that entropy. Now, if you look at any of these, let's look at row 3. Now, this isn't where the break-in is, but if you look at row 3, you can tell that if you've got two 15 cages that completely see each other, you can't make one of them 4, 5, 6, because if you make one of these cages 4, 5, 6, you don't have a middle digit for the other 15 cage. Remember, because the other 15 cage would need it needs a low digit, a middle digit, or a high digit, or it's full mid. And it can't be full mid because you've used them all, and you can't do 2 lows and a high or 2 highs and a low. It doesn't work. So and if it's 3 lows, you're at 6, and if it's 3 highs, you're at 24. So it just doesn't work. You need a middle digit in a 15 cage. So it can't be full mids. So each of these cages must be fully entropic. It must have a low digit, a middle digit, and a high digit. And because of the fact that every row, every column, and every box of a Sudoku grid contains the digits 1 to 9, and those digits sum to 45, when you've got 2 cages like this that see each other, the digits that are left out are also a 15 cage, and they must be fully entropic, because this is also a 15 cage. Now, where the break-in happens, and by the way, you've got the same in this row. These are 2 15 cages that see each other. They must be fully entropic, and these must be fully entropic. But where it matters is in row 8, because those digits there are 2 15 cages. They must be fully entropic. They can't both be 4, 5, 6. So these 3 cells here must be a fully entropic 15 cage. One of those digits must be low. And because one of those digits must be low, you can immediately think, can these be low digits? Now, you look at it and think, hang on, I could put 3 on those for a thermo, but if these are a 3, these are a 2, 1, and in order to make the 15 cage work, that would have to be a 12. If that was a 3, that'd be a 2, 1, that'd have to be a 12. You cannot put 3 into either of those cells. You can't put 2 or 1 into either of those cells. The only possibility for the low digit in those 3, and you must have 1, is for this to be a 3, this to be a 2, this to be a 1. And that's the opening part of the break-in, and you can write those digits straight in as soon as you understand the entropy nature of a 15 cage and the way they play off each other. And that's the break-in for the puzzle. Now, we can look at this 15 cage. Now, this 15 cage needs 14 more. So, because we've got 1, we need 14 more. Now, you can't make 14 with 7, 7. So the only options you've got are 8, 6, and 9, 5. But you can't put 9 in either of those cells because they are not at the tip of a thermo. They're not at the end of a thermo. They are the bulb of a thermo. So this must be 6, 8. Now, once this is 6, 8, and I'm going to struggle with some of the explanations in this, they get a little tricky, but once one of these is an 8, one of these has to be 9. And that's an important thing to remember at this point. Now, we now want to look at this thermo, because this thermo cannot contain 1, 2, or 3. So we want to, if we look at this thermo, this now has a minimum of 4. So this minimum 5, minimum 6, minimum 7, but this is 4, 5, 6, 5, 5, 6, 7, 6, 7, 8, 7, 8, 9. Can't put an 8 in this cell. But if this is 7, this goes 6, 5, 4, and this becomes an 8, 9 pair. But this can neither be 8 nor 9, because this couldn't be 8 because there'd be an 8 in one of these two cells. If this is 7, 6, 5, 4, couldn't be 8, it'd be 9. But if this is 9, I can't put the 9 at the end of the thermo that has the 8 in it. So this cannot be a 7, or else there's nowhere to put the 8 or a 9. The other way to look at this is this sees 1, 2, 3. It could be 4, it could be 5, it can't be 6, it could be 7, it can't be 8, and it can't be 9 because there's a 9 in one of those two. So this is 4, 5, 7. So if this is 7, this is 6, this is 5, this is 4, and this thermo sees 7, 6, 5, 4, breaks that cell. So this can't be 7, this has to be the 9. That's the other way to see it. So you end up in this situation. Now we've got a couple of, this 9 is now an incredibly important deduction to make, because now we want to look at this row 4. Because we do know, because of the fact that an entire row of a Sudoku sums to 45, and the fact that we do have this separated 15 cage in these three cells, because these cells sum to 30. So these are a fully entropic 15 cage. These cells here have to sum to 6. So these are either 1, 5 or 2, 4. Now, one of those options isn't possible, and it's a bit weird to understand why. So the thing to understand is, can you put a 1 in any of these cages? And I think at this point I'm already able to prove that I can't, because I think I can already prove it I can't. Because if there is a 1 in a 15 cage, the other digits have to sum to 14. The only way you can sum to 14 is with 9, 5 or with 8, 6. Now, I can't put a 1 in either of those cells because there's already a 1 in the box. So there's no 1 in either of those cells. I can't put a 1 partway along a thermo. So I couldn't make either of these cages 1, 5, 9 because there's a 9 in the row. So the only way to make it up would be 1, 6, 8. But if I put a 1 here, this cell would have to be a 6 or an 8. And I can't put a 6 or an 8 in that cell. And it's the same here. If this was a 1, 6, 8, I couldn't put a 6 or an 8 in that cell because I would break that. Basically, neither of these cages can be 1, 6, 8 because of that. Because I'd have to put a 1, a 6 or an 8 into either of those cells, and I can't do it. And I can't make them 1, 5, 9 because there's a 9 in the row. So I can never put a 1 into any of these 15 cages. And if I can't put a 1 in the 15 cages, I have to put a 1 outside the 15 cages. And once there's a 1 outside the 15 cages, the other digit has to be the 5 to make the virtual, the 15 total that is outside row 4. So these become a 1, 5. That's the other way of looking at it, but that's the logic that you want. You could find that either way. So now we want to look at the makeup of these 15 cages, because we know once again they're fully entropic, and I'm actually going to use these two cells up here to make notes. So we need to put a 2 in one and a 3 in the other. Remember, fully entropic. So how do we make that up? The one that comes with a 2 needs to have another 13. So how do you make 13? Well, I've got, I can't use 5. So if I did 2, 4, I've got 6. I would need another 9. So that's not going to work. I can't use I would need to use 2, 4, 9, and I can't do 2, 4, 9 because the 9 is gone in the row. I can't use 2, 5 because 5 isn't available in the row. So it'd be 2, 6. 2, 6 sums to 8, so it's 2, 6, 7. And the digits I've got left over are, I've used 3, I've used 5 and 6, so it's 3, 4 and 3, 4, 8. So the ways that you can make up these 15 cages are 2, 6, 7 and 3, 4, 8. And they're the only possible ways of making up these 15 cages. And that's an important thing to understand. And I'm sorry if this sounds like a lecture rather than a solve, but this is a hard puzzle and I understand it. I understand that concept. So now we want to look at the possibilities here. So try to remember the step that comes next. I think it is these, and understanding that these are limited. So one of these has to come with a 9, because remember there is a 9 in one of these. So whichever one comes with a 9 needs an extra 6. So it doesn't matter which one it is. I'm going to pencil mark across boxes at the moment. But whichever one of these comes with a 9 needs an extra 6. But if you look at this, you can never put 1. Because of the 1 here, the 1 sees both of those cells, either in the box or the row, and you can never put 1 part way along a thermo, because anyway, that would be where the 9 has to be. So it's always going to be 2, 4, 9. Whichever one is the 9 is a 2, a 4, and a 9. So the question is, which one of those can be the 9? Or more importantly, which one can't be the 9? So if this was a 9, we have a problem. Because if this is a 9, and I think this is the right place to point it out, I think I can discover it at this point. If this is the 9, this can't be a 2 because it's too far along a thermo. So this would be the 4 and this would be the 2. So this being a 4 means this has to be a 3 because I've put a 2 here, and this is a 1. But the important thing is this is a 3. Once this is a 3, because of what we've figured out about the nature of these cages, this is a 3, 4, 8 cage. But we've put a 4 here, and this is a 3. So if this is a 9, this is a 4, because remember 9 goes with 2, 4. This is a 4, this is a 3, and that cell there would have to be a 4 or an 8. But we've already got an 8 and a 4 in this box. So this can't be the 9, and this has to be the 9. And this becomes a 2, 4 pair. So that's an important, a very important step to understand. So we know that the 9 has to be directly above the 8, and this becomes the 6. This now becomes 7 or 8. And now I'm trying to remember how this works. This is a tricky puzzle, and I fully acknowledge this. This is not an easy puzzle. Okay, so the next step, I think, is... I kind of want to pencil mark all of these cells, but there is a... I do. There is an easier way of finding it, but I kind of want to pencil mark all of these cells because these are from 2, 3, 4, 5, and 7. Now this obviously can't be a 2 because it's too far along a thermo. Now the question we want to have at this point, there's no 5 in either of those, so we know 5 is in one of those two. So this is 2, 3, 4, or 7. But the question we want to ask ourselves is, can that be a 2? And I'm pretty certain the answer is no. And the reason is a little bit more obvious than you think if you remember the concept of 15 cages and entropy. Because if this is a 2, remember, because of the nature of these 15 cages, this becomes a 2, 6, 7. Because we've proven that one of these cages is 2, 6, 7 and the other is 3, 4, 8. If this is a 2, this is a 6, 7. And this being a 2, 6, 7 means this would be at least a 6, and this would have to be a high digit, because 6 here means this is 7, 8, or 9. So this would go 2, 6, 7. But if this is 6, 7, this is an 8, and I've already hit 15, and that cell would have to be a 0. I've got 2 high digits in a 15 cage, which from an entropy perspective doesn't work. So this can't be 2, 6, 7. This cannot be a 2. And now we know that 2 is in one of those 2 cells. So that is an important step, and I'm trying to remember how it works. There's a couple of other deductions I need to put in, and I've got to remember what they are. So if this is 3, this is 4, 8, and this can't be the 8 because it has to be lower than the so if this is 3, let's if this is 3, I know there was a more elegant way of doing this. This is 4, 8. If this is 4, this is 3, 8, and if this is 7, this is 2 and 6. So 2, 6, 2, 6. Now, I have completely ignored a step down here, which is something that people often in testing often did. And I've probably jumped to something that I probably want to show off right now, which is from the moment you got this 3, this was resolvable down to pairs because what could these cells be? And I'm actually not very good at this, but we know that these cells had to sum to 12. Now, we can't use a 9, so they couldn't be, or they couldn't be 9, 3. How do we do this? They couldn't be. There was a way of doing it. I'm trying to remember what it was. I, if they were 8, 4, if you put a 4 in either of these, you couldn't put a 4 in either of these because if one of them was 4, then you'd force a 2, 1 lower on the thermo and then you'd need the 12 again. So you couldn't use a 4. So the next option down to get to the 12 is 7, 5, and these are forced to be 5, 7. Now, when you end up with the 5, 7, these 15 cages do become quite forced because what is lower on the 5 needs to be a 4. And when you've got the 4 in, what's going to be lower than the 4? So you end up with, if you go 4, 2, actually that does, I can't remember how to do this because this is not the bit of the puzzle that I remember doing. When I was playing with the puzzle, I was doing all of this, not all of this. So this is now a 15 cage without 3, 5, or 7. But you can never put a 9 in any of these. Oh, you can never put a 9 or an 8 in any of these. So this becomes an 8, 9 pair. Now the 8, or more importantly, the 9 needs 6. Now to get to the 6, you're either using 1, 5, which you can't do, or 2, 4. So the 9 goes with 2, 4. And then the 8 would need, the 8 needs 7, which is 1 and 6. So you end up with 1, 2, and 4, 6. They're the only ways that you can make those up. There you go. But there was something up here that was incredibly important. And I'm trying to remember what it was. And this is the thing, I'm quite familiar with this puzzle, but I don't have it locked down yet. I know 3 is in one of those two. No, that's completely not true. Oh, this can't be a 7. This absolutely can't be a 7 because of the entropy issue. This is not a 7, so this is not a 6. This is 2, 3, or 4. So this is 1, 2, or 3. So I want to do this again, I think. If this is 3, if this is 3, this is 4, 8. If this is 4, this is 3, 8. And if this is 7, this is 2, 6. That is the only way this can be made up. And now I think I'm at the point where I can make what I feel is the critical deduction on this puzzle, which is we know 2 is in one of these two positions. What happens if that is a 2? Because if this is a 2, it may not look like it, but this puzzle is broken. Because if this is a 2, we know that this becomes a 6, 7 pair. So this would be, and I'm actually going to show you this, but I do believe this is, first of all, I'm going to explain it and then I'm going to prove it. If this is a 2, this is a 6, 7 pair. The 6, 7 here makes this 8, which makes this 7. So we've got a 7 in here and a 7 here, and there's nowhere to put 7 in box 5. So now I'm going to demonstrate that. If we put a 2 here, because of the nature of the 15 cages in row 4, this would become 6, 7. The 6, 7 makes this 8, the 8 here makes this 7, and now there is nowhere to put 7 in box 5. And that there are a couple of other ways of getting to this deduction, but that is the important one. So this cannot be a 2. And that means this is a 2, which means this is a 4. Now, still trying to figure, and from this point on, okay, this makes this the 6, which means this is the 4. Higher than 6 is 7, which means this is the 5. Now, the makeup of these cages was these now have to sum to 9. So this is the 8 and the 1. So this is the 2 and the 9. And that should be the makeup of these cages. The 4 here takes 4 out of here. The 2 here takes 2 out of here. This is now 8 or 9, and it sees an 8, so this is a 9. The 7 takes 7 out of here. 5 is in one of those two, but I already had that. So this is 3 or 4, which means it can't be 2, 6, or 7 anymore. And that's the important breakdown. This cannot be 2, 6, or 7. So this is the 3, 4, 8 cage, and neither of those can be the 4. That's the 4. That takes 4 out of all of those, but we know this is the 2, 6, 7 cage. This is the only place for the 2. So the 7, this is the 2, this is the 6, this is the 1. The 7 makes this the 5, and this becomes the 3. Once this is the 3, these need to sum to 12. So they are either 8, 4, which it can't be, or 7 and 5. And that is the breakdown of those cages. Now, I still don't have the breakdown of this, but we're getting closer. Hopefully, this is making some sort of sense. It is all playing around with the entropy of 15 cages and forcing everything. Now, remember, these were placeholder digits, and they're now fully used. Those were not actual digits in the puzzle. They were just the placeholders explaining how these cages works. Now, this has to be higher than 5, and it can't be 6, 7, or 9. So this is an 8, and these 3 digits are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 4, and 6. There is no 4 there, there is no 1 there, and there is no 6 there. Now, where is the 5 comes out of both of those. This is a 4, 6 pair, so this is 7 and 8. Now, we know that these this is a 15 cage, so there is a low and a mid digit in here that sums to 7. Well, I can't use 1, 6, so they are either 2, 5 in that order, or 3, 4 in that order. And I'm not sure I can narrow that down yet. It's possible I'm just badly scanning, but so these sum to 14, and they don't include 8. So if they don't include 8, these are 5 and 9. And the 9 here tells me this is the 5 and this is the 9. So this is the 1 and this is the 5. And these, well, actually that resolved it. That being 5 means this is the 3 and this is the 4. And I know the makeup of this cage. 1, 2 is the low digit. The middle digit I haven't used is 6, which means that I need the 7 to get the total to 15. This can't be a 2 because it's got to be higher than 3 or 8. And this can't be a 6. This 4 no, that's not correct. What am I missing from this? Well, hang on. This 4 has made this 6 and this 4, which has made this 1 and this 6. And now I've got pairs missing in these columns. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 2 and 9. And these are 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 5. Now this has to be lower than 5. So this is 2, 3, or 4 because it can't be 1. Now this one is important and I can't remember how. There is a trick to it and I don't remember what it is. We know these, this is a 1. Because I can't put 1 in those cells or there. So these are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 2, 6, and 7. There's a 2, 7 there. So that's the 6. So these are a 2, 7. The 6 looks up making that the 7. which means this cannot be an 8. Well, it could never have been. This would have been 3 for ages because 2, 6, and 7, 8 was always lower than 2, 6, or 7. This is the 8. The 7 looks down, making this the 2 and this the 7, meaning this is this is the 2 and this is the 6. That's the trick. This now has to be higher than 6 and it's not 7 or 8. This is the 9, which looks across, making this the 2 and this the 9. This looks across, meaning that is not 2, it's 3 or 4. There we go. I knew there was something to this, but I couldn't remember what it was. And now we are absolutely just down to Sudoku. In this box, we need to put a 3 and a 9 in those, and we've got a 9 there, so that's the 3 and that's the 9. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 8 go into those. The 3 looks up, making that the 4, so this is the 8 and this is the 4. Which column do I want to look at? Let's look at column 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's no 2 here. There's no 2 here, so this is the 2. And we've got a 3, 4 pair. Not as helpful as I might have liked. Let's look at column 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So there's no 6 here. There's no 2 or 6 here. That's the 7 because of the 2, 6 in a row. So this becomes the 2 and this becomes the 6. The 2 hasn't helped me as much as I want. But let's look at these 4. 1, 2, I need to put a 3 in. Okay, that's not great. 3, 4, 5, 6. Actually, 6 is in. Actually, 6 is right there because of the 6s looking at those cells. 3, 7, and 8. There's no 7 in that one. So 7 is in one of those. Oh, no, it's not. 7 is not there because of that. So this is the 7 and this is a 3, 8 pair. So that's going to do more down here. 1 can't be in either of those, 1 or that one. So this is the 1. These are now 3, 5, and 8. Well, there's no 5 there. So this is a 3, 8 pair. There's no 8 there. So we know... I remember it being a little bit tricky, but I'm sure I've just missed something. So what is this triple? 1, 2, 3, 5, and 7. Well, there's no 7 there. So this is the 7. So there's the 3, 5 pair. This triple now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 5, and 8 go into those. Well, there's no 1 there. So 1 is up here. This 8 makes this 5, which makes this 3, which makes this 4. This is now 9. The 5 means that this is a 1, 8 pair, but the 5 looks across, taking 5 out of there. This is 3, 8. This is 5. But this 4 looks up, making this 3, which makes this 8, which makes this 3. The 3 looks down, making this 8 and this 3. The 8 looks across, making this 1 and this 8. The 1 looks across, making this 5 and this 1. In here, I need to put a 4. It's not there. That's the 4. And then I put in the 5. And that is how you solve White Lotus by BremSter and Virtual. So... this is a puzzle that, as I said, 30 minutes is what it took me to explain, but I was in that trying to explain all of the stuff around the entropic nature of 15 cages, how two 15 cages that see each other completely cannot be 4, 5, and 6. They must contain full entropy. And then all of the tricks around, how these cages had to be forced as soon as this was 9 because of the way this worked. This was a 3, 2, 1 write-in from the very start. That forced this cell to be a 9. That forced there to be a 9 in one of these, and it had to be 2, 4, 9 because of the nature of the way it worked. These did resolve to pairs, and I should have explained that earlier, and I'm sorry about that. A lot of people do spend time trying to figure out, do the digits in these cages interact with the pairs down the bottom? And do you get chains out of that? You don't really need those. The only chain you really need in this is what happens if this cell is a 2, because that does mean that you can't put a 7 in box 5. There are other ways of doing that by using shorter chains and eliminating options down here. But that is White Lotus. I really like the nature of the way that the 15 cages force each put a lot of pressure each other, and how all of these had to be fully entropic. And as soon as you got a 6 and an 8 in here and these had to be high digits, these cages also were forced to be fully entropic, because once there's a high digit in a 15 cage, the cage is automatically fully entropic. And this is a puzzle that is playing with that entropy of the 15 cages incredibly heavily, and that was the point of it. Thank you everyone who has joined my channel over the last 2 years. I hope that you have enjoyed the puzzles that we've brought you. At the very beginning, I was doing quite a lot of quite difficult puzzles. I have tried to bring the tone back down and be more beginner friendly. In the last few weeks, I've had a few months of only doing quite easy puzzles, because I've had a lot of health difficulties, I've had a lot of life difficulties, and the easier puzzles the ones I've been able to do. I've tried to actually pull a lot of the harder puzzles I've rejected out of the backlog and catch up over the last few weeks, and that's been a bit wrong of me. I am trying to get some of the easier puzzles back into the queue as well, so keep that middle. So if you've been someone who's really loved the easier puzzles and you've been going, I've been getting too hard again, please don't despair. Some of them will come back in. I hope you didn't use the duration of this video to go, oh, this is an easy one. No, this is actually probably one of the harder puzzles I've done on the channel in a while. It's just, I know this one. Virtual and I put a fair bit of effort into making this one work. And there's been testers who just did not find that break in. Because, yeah, if you know the trick, you could just write these digits in, but if you don't know the trick, that you may not spot that. So hopefully this is a puzzle that will have helped you learn something about the way you can look at 15 cages and ways of using sort of tricks. Like, this is not an entropic puzzle. There's nothing in the rules that talk about entropy, but it is a trick that you absolutely, if I can't imagine solving this without using entropy as part of the solving. I think this puzzle would be almost intractable without it. So yeah, one of the things about solving hard puzzles is learning how to figure out what are the other tricks in your toolbox that you can use, and hopefully this will help with that. I hope, yeah, I look forward to seeing what people say on this one. When this video is out, I think we'll probably be posting this one to Logic Masters Germany. I think we'll be submitting this one to CTC, to be honest. We will see. I don't think they'll do it, but I think we'll submit it. Yeah, thank you everyone for watching. And yeah, as always, for 2 years, I haven't been saying this the whole time because it took me a while to come up with it, but as always, and I cannot mean this enough with the thanks and everything, but good luck with your solving.